Om Shri Sai Ram. Prema Vahini by Bhagwan Shri Satya Sai Baba. Chapter 11. The prosperity of yesterday, the poverty of today, both are due to the actions of the so-called great. Every man so led his life that no pain is caused by him to any living being. That is his supreme duty. Just as time is spared to nourish the body, which is impermanent, so also it is the prime duty of everyone who has had the chance of this human birth to make it possible to spare a part of his time and energize to prayers, repetition of the Lord's name, meditation, to do good deeds which are of service to others, etc. One must also equate living with truth, rightfulness, and peacefulness. One must be as afraid of doing acts that are harmful to others or deeds that are sinful, as he now is afraid to touch fire or disturb a cobra. One must have as much attachment and as much steadfastness in carrying out good works, in making others happy, and in worshipping the Lord as he now has in accumulating gold and riches. This is the sahaja, the natural dharma of man towards his fellow brothers and sisters. It is to strengthen this type of goodness that the Lord incarnates himself in human form. But the question may arise, how can a non-existent thing be strengthened and developed? Indeed, these qualities are not non-existent. They are there in man. When these exciting qualities decline and wither, the Lord comes with the purpose of promoting them and bringing about the decline of the forces that work in the opposite direction. It is to make clear this purpose that Sri Krishna in the Dwapar Yuga, while teaching Arjuna, said, Paritrayanam sadhunam vinashya cha dushkritam dharma samstadana prapte sambhavani yuge yuge. That is to say, all incarnations of the Lord are for the protection and promotion of sadhus. This word sadhu does not refer to any single religion or color or caste or stage of life or community or even any single species like the human. It refers not only to all communities, all religions, all stages of life, all races, but also to all creatures. The Lord has revealed in the Gita his universal mind. It is because of this universal message that the Gita has become so important and so famous. Why? Sri Krishna himself has declared in plenty of situations and places that he is the dutiful servant of his devotees. An example of this is his accepting to be the charioteer of Arjuna. If the culture of the ordinary man himself results in such elevation, each one can judge for himself how much more purified and holy will be the character of those who are engaged in spiritual exercises and the incessant contemplation of God. For both these types of people, the quality of their character is the important criterion. There is a great difference between the Brahmanishthas, those established in God contemplation of the past, and the Brahmanishthas of the present day. First, it is necessary to grasp the greatness of Brahmanishta itself. It is because that has not been done by the present day Brahmanishtas that poverty has come upon us today. In the past, this greatness was realized and they were immersed in experiencing holiness. The question may arise, why such holy feelings do not arise now, but they are not absent. For fire to increase or decrease, fuel is the only cause. There is no other reason. The more the fuel, the more the illumination. In all humanity, every individual has the undisputed right to feed his fire with fuel. Fire has the power to give light by its very nature. So too, in the fire of buddhi of the aspirant and spiritual practitioner, the fire which animates the light of wisdom, the fuel of qualities such as Vishaya, Virakti, detachment, or lack of affection towards sensory objects, Shantam or peacefulness, Satyam, truth, Karuna, mercifulness, Sahanam, forbearance, and Paropkaram or the selfless service has to be constantly placed. The more they do this, the more efficacious and effulgent the sadhakas can become. Only those trees that grow on fertile soil can yield good fruits. Those which grow on saline soils will be poor. So also, it is only in the hearts which are unsullied that such holy feelings, glory and blessings can shine in splendor. Therefore, the difference between the Brahmanishtas of the past and the present is just this: difference in the purity of heart. The present day Brahmanishtas are practicing the same dhyanam, the same pranava and the same yoga as those practiced in the past. The difference arises in the decline in self-control. So far as the field of sadhana is concerned, when the number of Mahapurushas who engage themselves in unflinching meditation of God in solitary places declined, then many a suffering descended upon the world. Those who exist today are damaging their Brahmanishta by themselves arranging for the accumulation of all obstacles for the carrying through of their sadhana, by getting enslaved to mean praise and fame, by becoming entangled in delusion, and by restless endeavor to earn glory and to expand the institutions they have founded. But those who yearn to establish themselves in Brahmanishta must seek solitude and practice dhyanam and japam at specified times and acquire one-pointedness through these spiritual exercises, and always be keen to do deeds that will bring about the welfare of all created beings, ever engaged in performing work without any concern for the fruit thereof. It is only when such men come upon the earth that all suffering will cease. This is the mark of Treta Yuga. Just as in the world, kind-hearted doctors run medical institutions here and there and serve the diseased and cure the afflicted, if here and there we also have ashramas of holy personages who are experts in the treatment and cure of the birth and death disease, then people can be cured from the afflictions of ignorance, untruth, immorality and self-aggrandizement. The afflictions of ignorance produce wickedness, and it can be cured only by the medicine of Brahma Jnana or the knowledge of Brahman, and with qualities such as Shantam, Samadhamam, that is peacefulness, fortitude, self-control, as Pathamu, dietary restriction. Instead of this, the great men of today give those who approach them the medicines they demand and the diets their patients relish. They thus become the instruments of their followers, and for the sake of name and fame, they behave like doctors, dictated to be the patients. This is the reason for the misery today. Doctors must understand the condition of the patients and cure diseases accordingly. Only then do they deserve to be responsible for the happiness of the patients and deserve their love and gratitude. On the other hand, if they do not attempt to properly understand the disease and try to cure them to meet their selfish desires, they do not only ruin the patients, but they themselves also cannot sustain long with such manners. The present atmosphere is no different. Today's so-called great men in every field are behaving in the same way. Only when there is change in their behavior can welfare result in the world. Without changing behavior, how many ever attractive talks and preaching they may give, it is of no use. Their preaching must reflect in their work. Doctors are meant to serve the patients. They cannot inject or operate on themselves. So also, Mahatmas or the great souls are also Gyanis. Who are Gyanis, spiritually wise ones, are meant to serve those who are found to be in slumber of ignorance and drowned in the gulf of ahamkara or conceit, by guiding them on the right path and making them victorious. They definitely should not ruin those who are already deluded into all types of attachments due to ignorance, who forgot the truth and crave for power and authority, name and fame, bodily comforts and conveniences, further by pushing them more deeply into all types of worldly delusions. Their glory lies in promoting and laying the foundation for mutual love and respect towards all by subduing wicked qualities such as envy, hatred, egoism, which leads to unrest and ignorance. Only such ones are true great men. Rest all our cloths. In the communities where no good doctors and no adequate hospital facilities are present, people suffer from various diseases. So too, if no great men to teach noble things and guide in the path of truth, and no ashramas or holy places that are conducive for such purposes are present, people in those places suffer from the dreadful diseases of wicked qualities. In the places where great men who have realized the truth, acquired the true essence of all knowledge, highly devoted and disciplined in practicing their sadhana, are present, wicked qualities do not arise. Even if they arise, they are subdued by them. Actually, to whatever extent the world is presently experiencing peace and happiness is because of the immense power of penance and the strength of spiritual practices by such great men. Great men must not only enjoy the bliss they have experienced, but also share it with everyone. The present day so-called great men fall into perdition even before they taste and experience the bliss themselves, on account of their weaknesses and foolishness, becoming a prey to the wiles of the greed for name and fame. This is the durlabha, durbalya, or the weakness, disability of so-called great men today. Present-day sadhus and so-called great men have not understood this fact and do not act according to it. So, the main reason for the poverty today is just this, that holy essence has to be experienced and realized. One's selfish needs have to be sacrificed. There must be constant effort to do good to others. One's desire should be to establish the welfare of the world. With all these feelings filling the heart, one must meditate on the Lord. This is the right path. If great men and those in authority are thus engaged in the service of humanity and in promoting the welfare of the world, the thieves of passion, hatred, pride, envy, jealousy, and conceit will not invade the minds of men. The divine possessions of man, like dharma or righteousness, daya, mercy, satya or truth, prema or love, jnana or knowledge, and vijnana or wisdom, will be safe from harm. The police and the rules can overcome only external foes. They have no power to destroy the internal enemies. They will find the task impossible. They are not the authorities for that. The internal foe, the 6 enemies that operate inside man, The Arisad Vargas can be uprooted only by the teachings of good men. The love of God and the knowledge of the Lord and the company of the holy and the great, just as when the police and the authorities responsible for apprehending thieves become themselves dependent on them, the world will suffer harm at the hands of wicked men. So also, if the Brahmanishtas and the great sadhus give up the path of the world welfare and become the victims of sense enjoyment and ambition to earn name and fame, the world will become enveloped in darker ignorance and dharma will be destroyed. The present situation is the same as described in the above two groups. Hence, the daily increase of suffering also. The whole world will bask in peace and joy only that day when both these groups realize the right attitudes and with the welfare of all at heart ponder over the omnipotence of the Lord. Both these are two governments for man's two states. Spiritual elders are the rulers of the internal state. Administrative authorities are the rulers of the external state. If both these groups act and direct properly, both states will function with equal happiness. The fault of causing the present misery must therefore be shared by both. It is at such times that the Lord of all Sarvesha resolves to vouchsafe happiness to all states by suppressing ignorance and injustice and fostering wisdom and justice. It is to make this clear that the Lord said in the Gita, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata adhyutyanam madmasya tadaman shrijam yaham. O Bharat, whenever dharma declines and adharma raises its head, then I make myself born. Really speaking, even for the advent of the Lord, the prayers of the great act as the invitation. In the external world, when the subjects need any convenience or help, they approach the rulers and inform them of their request. So also, in the internal state, when there is no possibility of achieving and acquiring bhakti or devotion, karuna or compassion, shanti, peace, satya, truth, the great and good men who desire to achieve them pray to the Lord within themselves. Then, listening to their prayers, He Himself comes into the world and showers His grace on them. This fact is well known to all. Why did not Rama and Krishna incarnate? Because the Lord heeded the prayers of the sages. Many have read this in the Ramayana and Bhagavatam. Why even Ramakrishna Paramhansa, though he was divinely born, prayed to Goddess Kali to send someone who could preach to the whole world the dharma that will uproot injustice and selfishness. This is known to all who have read his life history. Thus, prayers should be offered again and again for the realization of the task. No one should become desperate and give up prayers if they do not result in the advent of the Lord. In the external state, how often a person has to write to the rules and how much he has to wander about for his work to be done, and perhaps at the end it may not fructify at all. Now, how is one to know the consequences of the soul's yearning, which is unfathomable? Since this cannot be known, one has to pray until the world is established in happiness. The happiness of the world is the sign of his arrival. If this is understood, then it is easy to recognize the avatar immediately. It is then that the religion of Satya, the religion of Daya, the religion of Jnana, and the religion of Prema will grow and prosper. So, until these are firmly rooted, people must continue their prayers. That is the responsibility of the people. The roadway laid out by holy men have to be repaired now and then by by either those who travel through it or those claiming authority over it. This is what is called teaching or bodha. It is for the sake of such repairs that the Lord sends occasionally some authorized individuals, sages and divine personages. Through the sadbodha or good teachings of these, the path opened by the godmen of the past is again made clear and smooth. Thus, when the Lord's will, the conduct of sadhus and the noble teachings of great persons produce their combined effect, the happiness of the world will be assured and it will be undiminished. If all humanity prays at one time and in one voice that unrest, injustice, disorder, and falsehood might be transformed into peace, truth, love, and mutual service, things will certainly become better. Now, there is no other way out. Worrying is fruitless. There is no occasion for despair. It is against the essential nature of man to plead weakness and want of strength. Therefore, giving up the search for other means, men must try to pray to God, serve others with mutual love and respect. They should delay no longer. They will soon acquire contentment and joy. People say that the service of man is the service of God, that Manav Seva is Madhav Seva. That is a true statement. But though the service of humanity is holy, unless it is merged in the bigger ideal of divinity, men will not benefit however huge the service is. Mere repetition of the slogan is useless if service is done without faith in the divinity of man and with an eye on name and fame and the fruits of one's action. Whatever actions one undertakes, if one has constantly as a companion the contemplation of the Lord, and if one has faith in the essential divinity of man, then the statement about Manav Seva and Madhav Seva being the same is justified. Without thoughts of Madhava, how can Madhava Seva originate? All such talk is mere show. I won't agree to that. Instead, whatever is done with the Lord in mind along the path of truth and according to the aspects of Dharma has to be considered as the Seva of the Lord, and whatever is done for the name and fame and for the fruit thereof shall not be referred to as Madhava Seva. In fact, those who are immersed in the uninterrupted contemplation of the Lord need not do any other task at all. The fruit of their prayer itself can make the world holy. But all cannot be thus engaged, and so all must endeavor to prepare for that stage by purifying their mind and annihilating every other sankalpa or resolve or desire. The sadhus who have achieved this can realize things for themselves. Others cannot grasp the sameness of Manava Seva and Madhav Seva, but this does not mean that one can sit quiet. Grasping it is dependent on each one's prapti or destined to get and sadhana. Until that happens, without deceiving the self to dhyanam and japam, so that the mind will become free from the waves of agitations and full of the divine form also. Carry out deeds for the good of others. Devote your time to the service of the world without aspiring for the results thereof. Thus, you can become blessed. Otherwise, though the body may be inactive, the mind will be very busy committing acts on its own. Such men fall a prey to karma in spite of their not doing anything. When a person has his mind fixed on the contemplation of God and the pursuit of truth, though his body and its senses do acts that are of service to the Lord, they will not be affected by them. Though they do karma, they are still non-doers of karma. The lesson of the Bhagavad Gita is embedded in this. The heart of the person who does not strive to cultivate his mind with holy thoughts is certain to be the paradise of evil and wickedness. This has to be borne in mind by all those who aspire for salvation, who seek one-pointedness, and who hope to rise to greatness. To realize this knowledge of the Atma, caste is not a criterion, nor monkhood, nor rituals, nor scholarship gained by the study of the Shastras. Brahmanishtha is the only criterion. It is this that the Upanishad text too emphasizes. Nasramam karanam muktehe darshanani na karanam tatteva sarva karmani jnanameva hi karanam. Jnana alone is the cause of liberation, not ashrama or philosophy. For the establishment of oneself in the contemplation of the omnipresent Lord, there are no limitations of time or space. There is nothing like a holy place or a special time for this. Wherever the mind revels in the contemplation of the divine, that is the holy place. Whenever it does so, that is the auspicious moment. There and then one must contemplate on the Lord. That is why it has been announced already before, Nakala niyamo yatra na deshaya sthalyasya cha yatrasya ramate chitam tatre dhyanama kevalam. For meditation on God, there is no fixed time or place. When and where the mind so desires, then and there it is the time and place. The world can achieve prosperity through such highly devoted and disciplined souls whose hearts are pure and saturated with all the essence. Everyone should pray to God from this very minute for the advent of such men and try to deserve the blessings of the great and endeavor to forget the sufferings of the day in the attempt to promote the welfare of the world. Jai Sai Ram.
साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ